While it's very badly spelled, I think this challenge is interesting because it touches to the nature of semantics and how it affects how we think. Because we have an established word and construct God, people tend to use it like any other word and assume that they're making sense. If I say that there is a table, I can make sense of it because I have observed tables in the past and I have some idea of what it means for a table to exist. The construct God, on the other hand, is a very strange one because we've never observed any. We've only read about them in books. As a so-called hard atheist, I am also a materialist, and I believe that everything that exists is material and is causal and measurable. This construct of God is supposed to refer to things that are not material or measurable or observable. If you say that there are no tables, I can understand that proposition and analyze it because I know what table means. I know how to verify whether there is one or not. But if you say there is no God, well, I don't really know what that means. Most people take this as a sign of agnosticism, but agnosticism is not a viable position. If you're an agnostic as regards to God, then you have to suspend judgment as regards to any made-up construct or word. We know that the construct God comes from the human imagination. You can't be agnostic. No one is agnostic towards leprechauns or unicorns or the flying spaghetti monster or elves, because once again we know that they come from the human imagination. We don't have to check everywhere to see if they exist or not. As long as we know that they were made up, we simply don't believe in them. They do not exist. And if we find a horse with a horn on its forehead, that doesn't mean that unicorns have magically come into existence. This seems like a pointed epistemic issue, but the only way we can be rational is by looking at the evidence. We can't start from a conclusion and then try to find evidence for it. That's not how science works. That's not how reason works. Working that way is irrational and irresponsible. The author of this challenge is asking us to show why atheism, hard atheism, is more logical than theism. Well, that just goes to show why he's wrong. Because logic in and of itself does not give you truth. Logic is a method to eliminate contradictions. But if you have invalid premises, you can arrive to an invalid conclusion and still follow the laws of logic. Logic alone only guarantees consistency. Logic does not guarantee truth. If you don't follow the laws of reason, you will mislead yourself, regardless of whether you're being logical or not. It's not really possible to say that atheism or theism are logical. Each individual is an atheist or a theist for different reasons. Some people, in fact few people, are convinced by logical arguments, but most people are theists or atheists for very different reasons. Now, that being said, it must also be said that the Christian has no basis for logic. And this is where the real problems start, and this is why atheism wins the challenge. And not just Christian, but any theist, or at least any monotheist who believes in creation. I assume for most Occidental people, theism is implied to be a monotheism. The author of this challenge has all sorts of religious symbols on his video there, but I really doubt that he gives them any credence at all. That being said, I certainly don't want to disprove all religions. I think that Buddhism has some good ideas in it. I think that all religions have some good ideas in them except for monotheistic religions. I've never found anything good in Christianity or Islam or Judaism. Either way, if you believe in a monotheistic God that created the universe, That means that you believe that all material facts are contingent to God's will. What that means is that the nature of everything around us, if you are a believer, depends on God's will. They exist because of God's will, and their nature is the way it is because of God's will, because of God's act of creation, because God is said to be creator, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. But taking it in purely material terms, it means that all material facts are contingent to God. Okay? Well, logic is a material fact. We understand logic and apply logic because of the nature of existence. We eliminate contradictions from our thinking because contradictions cannot exist. But the laws of logic, if God created the universe, are contingent to God's will. Indeed, God is said to create contradictions all the time. For instance, Jesus is supposed to be fully man and fully divine. That's a contradiction. So if God exists, if monotheism is true, then we have to throw logic out of the window. So therefore the question here, the challenge from this Christian, is in fact rather disingenuous, because by being Christian he's refuting his own premise, i.e. that we can use logic as a standard to evaluate different positions. Therefore, for that simple reason, we win by default.